So thinking about getting the Urban Decay Wired palette or maybe the Suva Beauty Hypercolor palette, trying to decide which one to get. Are they the same? Is the quality of either of these any good? Stay tuned and see what I think. Any good? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be comparing, Betty, you gonna jump down? Good job. Today we're going to be comparing the new Urban Decay Wired palette and the Suva Beauty Hypercolor palette. The reason that I wanted to compare these two against each other is actually, I think they're really similar in color story. So if we have a quick look at the Wired palette, come on, open up. Okay, so it's mostly kind of neons and bright or very deep colors. So there's like a really deep blue, a deep purple, but then all this like, neon pink, kind of bright red, bright orange, bright yellowy green kind of color. And then we have the Suva Beauty Hypercolor palette, which, if you can see, is really similar. So we have the same kind of red, purple, navy, hot pink, yellow, and green color. So I saw both of them coming out and I'm like, okay, let's compare them against each other. Urban Decay, it's been a while since they came out with such a bright colored palette. What was the other one? The electric palette. I've seen some reviews already going up suggesting that maybe this isn't as good as the original electric palette. I don't have that, so I can't tell you what I think it's like versus that one, but I can tell you what I think of the quality of this one compared with the Suva Beauty one. So let's start just by showing some swatches. So I'm going to first start with the Wired palette. So there's me two pictures. So the first one is going to be the face, body, eye colors. So we have Glitch, which is the matte white, Chaos, the matte kind of navy bright blue, Shock, which is a matte kind of pinky lavender, Fluorescent, which is a matte bright teal, Current, which is a metallic green, and then Jolt, which is a, what is it? It's a matte kind of yellowy green color. And then we have the four that are considered for face and body, which means these are pressed pigments, which means they are likely to go ahead and maybe stain your eyelids or possibly cause some irritation. So nothing to worry about. I mean, I am using, well, I'll get to that in a minute. They are on my eye, so there's no big issue there. But in that section, we have Gravity, which is a slightly metallic-y, dark, very dark purple. We have Savage, which is an electric hot pink. We have Switch, which is a bright kind of neon orange. And then we have Slow Burn. Okay, so these are the colors from the Wired palette. Now let's go ahead and have a look at the ones from the Suva Beauty palette. And here again, I have two different sets of swatches, one for the UV glow and matte area, and then one for the topper area. So in the mattes area, which is half UV glow, half matte, I have the bright white, which is backlight, the hot pink, which is LSD, the deep navy color, which is Cloud 9. We have this kind of pinky purpley color, Hallucinate. We have Euphoria, which is a matte green, just a bright springy green, really nice looking color. Lollipop, which is a really pigmented yellow. After Hours, which is again kind of a bright fluorescent teal. And Sweet and Sour, which is a true kind of cranberry red matte. And then we have the four topper shades, which are, let me just put it out there, stunning. Really stunning, okay? We have Lemon Drop, Daiquiri, Mojito, and Cotton Candy. So Lemon Drop is kind of more of a gold topper. Daiquiri has more of a pinky kind of tone to it. Mojito is a little bit more green. And then Cotton Candy is blue kind of reef. They are a bit chunky and a bit hard to use, but I'm not going to be comparing those against the Wired palette because obviously there isn't any similarities there. So if we compare the sets of swatches together, what you're going to see is that between the Suva Beauty palette and the two shots from the Wired palette, we have almost complete overlap color story-wise. The two yellows are a bit different, okay? So the yellow from the Jolt palette, the Jolt color, let me just grab this here, from the Urban Decay palette definitely has kind of more of a greeny kind of undertone to it. They don't swatch very well, just heads up there. And then the Lollipop color from the Suva Beauty one is a lot more kind of a fluorescent yellow, so it's more of a true yellow color, okay? But otherwise, the only difference is that there are two additional colors in the Wired palette that are not present in the Suva Beauty, which is Gravity and Switch, so that deep purple and that deep orange. So let me just swatch them here for you. So the two ones that are unique to the Wired palette is that deep purple and the matte orange, okay? So those are the only ones that are different, really, I think, between the two. The color story is really, really similar. So what I've been doing is I've actually been wearing both of these for a few days now just to try out the different quality. So in my first look, which, sorry, I didn't film it, but just to tell you, I used the Wired palette. I used, just so you know, for both of the first 2 days of using these, I used the Smashbox 24-hour primer, the shadow primer, photo finish, set with just a light powder, okay? So I used Chaos, I used Fluorescent, and I used Current. So it was kind of a blue smoky eye with a bit of a kind of a light blue kind of shadow or light blue transition, and then green kind of all over the lid. So those ones, they are okay. Fluorescent has very, very little pigment to it. So if I just go ahead and just swatch that for you, just on the back of my hand, it's really, it kind of just fades away into nothing, okay? And then Chaos is really quite patchy when you try and actually apply it. I don't know if you can just see that swatch, there's all those gaps in it. But when it's applied, what I'm gonna do in a minute is I'm gonna show you this on my hand with a bit of setting primer on it, okay? So this one was very patchy, and then we had the fluorescent color, which just kind of blended out. The matte, the sparkly green is really pretty, and that one is fine. So the metallic green is absolutely fine in this palette. It applied fine, although the matte was quite patchy, and the pale colored teal here, this, or it's almost a baby blue, isn't it, this fluorescent color. But what I noticed is that so I do my makeup usually in the morning, and so by the time I'm getting home in the evening around 7 or 8 at night, I'm checking it again to see whether there's any creasing. And it was creasing very, very badly in the corners over here, okay? It's a normal area that I get creasing in, so it's not a surprise. But compared then with the Suva Beauty one, which I used the next day, and I tried to replicate the look as close as I could. So I mostly used Cloud 9, which is this kind of deep blue. Where are we gonna go? We're gonna go down here. And first, it doesn't swatch great. It is still a little bit patchy to apply, but it did hold pretty good on the lid. And then the After Hours, which does look quite a bit deeper here in a swatch, but on the eye is very similar actually to this fluorescent color. It's not that different. Okay, so those are the two. And you can see that that After Hours color is really nice. It's a really even color, but blues are difficult, okay? And that's why I actually picked them, because they were the most difficult ones in the whole palette. So I think the Suva Beauty one actually went on the eyes a lot better. Again, I was using the exact same primer, the same setup, so that it was identical conditions. And when I got home last night, again, wearing these, no creasing. Same time, I waited all the way up until almost 10 o'clock at night, no creasing, okay? So, and I got stuck in the rain yesterday, and I got completely drenched. So I was really impressed with that, okay? That's first, all right? Second is the looks that I have on today. I'm actually wearing each palette, okay? So on this eye, I am wearing, which one am I wearing on that eye? So this eye, I am wearing the Suva Beauty palette, and this eye, I am wearing the Wired palette. And let me just scooch myself in a bit closer. So hopefully what you'll notice with the Wired palette is the colors are less vibrant, less intense, and they do tend to kind of just wash out a little bit on the eye. They just fade away into nothing. The Suva Beauty ones are more intense. The red is really very red. It's very rich in color. There is a little bit of a blending issue with the Suva Beauty one. Oh, I just got makeup all over my pants. No! That's staying in there. Screams! So, sorry. So the Suva Beauty one. So it's a more intense look. There was some blending issues. The red, wherever it stuck to the primer. Oh yeah, sorry. So today's primer, I used the Anastasia Beverly Hills because I thought it would make it more color intense, so it had a little bit more rich color to the eyes. I used the exact same setup on each one. But it's really not very intense for a supposedly kind of bright electric colored palette. I think the Suva Beauty one does a lot better with this kind of bright intensity. So what I'm going to do is I just want to compare a couple of the shades against each other on a primed area of my arm. I will use the Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow base because, again, it's going to make a nice kind of whitish colored surface. Sorry for the construction noises. Okay, are we actually filming this time? God fucking damn it. Anyway, so the camera decided not to film. I filmed this whole outro and the comparison of the blue, and it's just like, you know what? Nah, you can't have that. Anyway, so we are doing it again. So I just wanted to show you the blues against each other. So what I've done, and I appreciate it's a little bit hard, but hopefully you can see there's like a slight color difference here on my arm. Can we get up closer? Right there. So I have primed the whole thing with the ABH, what is this actually called? Just eye primer. It's just an eye primer. So I wanted to show you the two blues against each other because I think in a way they're really representative of the main issues between these two palettes, or maybe not issues, but like the true difference. So we're going to start with the wired palette. So this color is called Chaos. Okay, let me just scoot up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm first going to start by just stamping the color in. Okay, so when you're working with kind of blue or very pigmented shadows, it is worth kind of doing this stamping motion first to get all the color laid down. Okay, so I'm trying to just make it nice and even, and then I'm just going to start to kind of blend a little bit with the brush. Okay, and obviously I'm not taking my time here. We're just doing this kind of quickly just so you can see. Let's put a little bit more on just so we can see the difference there. Okay, and just kind of blend it just a little bit like I would on my eye. Okay, so hopefully it looks similar to you like it does to me. It's quite patchy and not very intensely blue. Okay, although it is quite a nice lapis color. And then we have the Suva Beauty on Cloud 9 one, which I'm just going to do down here. Okay, so again, doing the same kind of thing, just starting with stamping motions. You do get quite a bit of fallout with these, so just kind of be aware of that. Okay, so that's just stamping it on to start with, and now let's just gonna go ahead and give it a little bit of a blend. Okay, so it's doing a little bit of the same thing here. So we'll give it the benefit of the doubt and put a little bit more on, just like we would on the eyes. Okay. So there's the comparison between the two. Camera, are you picking this up? Okay. So they're both a little bit patchy in the actual application. So I'm not going to say that there isn't some patchiness between both of the palettes. However, what I hope you can see is the difference in the vibrancy and the intensity of the colors. So this Chaos color looks very pretty, but it's just kind of dull, and it fades out into kind of just a fairly pale, well, it's not pale, but just like a not very wired or electric looking kind of blue, whereas the Cloud 9 one is more pigmented and stays this kind of deeper, richer navy color the whole way. So personally, I like the application and the presentation of the Suva Beauty one better than the wired palette one. So this is the hyper colored palette blue Cloud 9. This is the wired palette blue Chaos. I almost said Shock, but Shock is the wrong one. Okay. So in comparing both of these, wearing them a couple of times, testing out the different colors and the different kind of formula between the two, I would not pick this one up. I just don't really think it's any good. The colors end up looking very washed out. It's not very intense, and for what kind of is marketed really as almost a, not an electric palette, because clearly there was an electric palette, but a bright, vivid colored palette, this one just does not do it. The colors are too dull. They are not pigmented enough. Hey, don't fight. Sorry, there might be a cat fight about to happen on the floor there. So I personally wouldn't get the wired palette. Also, remember this one is nearly 40 pounds, so it is more expensive, whereas the Suva Beauty one, the hypercolored palette, is about 10 pounds cheaper. You don't get the orange and the purple in this one that you do in the wired palette, but they aren't the greatest shades anyway. The purple is probably one of the nicest ones in the wired palette, but it's not worth it for like one shadow. So I think the hypercolor palette is a better value. You also get these really fun topper shades here, which I really did enjoy using. Let me see if I can swatch one of them for you here. They are a bit chunky and not very easy to use, but they are very beautiful. Sorry, my hands are still covered in blue right now, so I don't know if you can see that reflection. Anyway, they're really fun, but they are not easy to use and they're very chunky. So it might be that you pass on both of these. I don't think you would be missing much. I think you can get these kind of colors in many other cheaper palettes as well. But I'm gonna not recommend the Wired palette. I do recommend the Suva Beauty palette. I do think it is a fun palette. You're gonna get really intense pops of color with it. And yeah, and it has some UV colors, so you can go and play under UV lights, which is, well, not something I would do nowadays, but maybe when I was younger. So that's the one that I would recommend. Alright guys, so that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions for other palettes that we can kind of, I don't want to say duel, but yeah, duel against each other and see which one reigns supreme or something like that, I'm happy to do that. So any two very similar colored palettes and you're like, okay, which one should I get? Let me know down in the comments and I'd be happy to do some of those type of videos for you. Yeah, and if you like this, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more of my kind of content, just having a nice time playing with makeup here on the interwebs, why don't you subscribe? It's just a little button. I really appreciate it, and I really want to grow my happy little community here on YouTube, so I would love it if you would join me. Yeah, that's it. I will be posting again. I post 4 times a week right now, so I'll be posting again on Friday, so please join me again on Friday, and we'll be doing something probably unsurprising, purple inspired. What am I doing? What is it gonna be? Come back Friday and find out. Woo. Secreting. All right. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. Have a really lovely rest of the day. And yeah, that's it. Bye.